Now, I want to give you a dash of truth though when it comes to this SEO game. It's not all fun and games. It's sometimes bloody hard work, and other times it just doesn't make sense. It feels like you're going around in circles, thrashing them out in the mud and not really knowing what you're doing. You're reading articles, you're doing webinars, and all these people are just confusing you with big words. All we want to do is try and get our search results up a little higher on Google so that people can find us, right? Well, you'd think that wouldn't be hard. But then you're not the only person doing what you do, and I'm not the only person doing what I do. In fact, in some places, in some ways, you may be one of 50, 60, 100, 2,000 people who are doing what you do in their particular city or in their particular town. So yeah, it's a really hard thing to do because it's very competitive. It's going to take time or it's going to take money to get there. And if you don't have the money, then you have to spend the time. You don't have the time, then you have to spend the money. You can see the trap we're getting into here. It's either you're going to have to spend chunks of time and effort to learn about this thing called SEO, which isn't really why you got into business in the first place, or you're going to have to spend the money getting someone, people like me or like, Ricky, who's another one of our guys who works in SEO. There's a couple of people in WA who work on the SEO through Business Station as well, or the plethora of agencies out there. I don't know what it is with old phone book and old newspaper companies that are now doing SEO services. But all I can tell you is avoid them like the plague. They are taking your money for nothing. They're charging you $700 or even $300 a month. You'd want to be seeing some results pretty quickly. If they're going to charge you that much going on, well, then you want to be able to know that you're appearing on the places where you want to appear for the search terms you want to appear as. So yes, it's going to take either time or it's going to take money. Now, the time side of it means you have to learn all these fancy things, these things like keyword research, which basically means doing some research into the kinds of things that people search for when they're looking for the things you do. So let's just say you're a life coach. Great. So what do people actually search for when they're looking for a life coach? You'd be surprised not that many people look for life coaches because not that many people think they need one. So they're not going to necessarily put in their life coach near me. Some people might, but most people don't. It's a little deeper than that. It's a little bit more psychology going on, where people are doing indicative things that seem to indicate that they might require a life coach. The same as it might be anyone who's doing, I don't know, let's think they're a consultant of some sort. Maybe they're a web designer or a graphic designer. There could be 50 graphic designers in your town. So what are you really looking for? Are people looking for a graphic designer, or are they looking on Google for someone who can help me make flyers for my school camp? They'll be looking for different things than just the thing you think they're looking for necessarily. So that's what keyword research is. It's going behind the obvious and saying, what are the problems that people want to solve, and how do they search for the solutions to those problems on a place like Google? Then there's content creation. Content creation takes time. I have to, if you want to look a peek into my week, and you'll see the results it's given me later on. But if you want to take a peek in my week, I create 2 blogs, usually 2 to 4 podcast episodes per week. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's about 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about 12, no, 14 social media posts a week on 2 businesses. And then there is also the creating of the videos. So I do a daily video Monday to Friday that goes on the various social media. That's a lot of content. Now, yes, I do that all very quickly now, but you imagine yourself sitting down there and having to go, all right, so I have to learn how to make myself a podcast. I need to make myself a YouTube channel. I need to open up 5 different LinkedIn profiles and Facebook business pages. And you just look at that and you go, this isn't why I got into business. I don't want to spend my time doing this. This is why it's the time factor there. Content rewriting, going to your website and picking apart every single word that you've written, every title, every page title, every paragraph of text to make sure that's optimized absolutely to do 2 things: be found on Google and to convert people to a sale once they get to your site. You're starting to see how this is starting to add up, right? You had to do this all the time. Holy crap. You'd never get time to do anything else. Then there's competitor research. You got to see how your competitors are going. There's some really good tools that will help you with that. But the problem is, though, that's still more time. And then there's the technical tweaks. And look, you may not be able to do any technical tweaks if you're using something like Wix or Squarespace or something hosted like a Doodah website or Webflow or any of those kind of guys. You might be able to do it if you've got a WordPress website, though. There's some certain technical tweaks you can make. But again, you've got to learn what those technical tweaks are and know that they even need to, like, how would you even know whether you need them or not? That's something which you need to learn about. And then the one which I hate the most, and I think it has the least impact, is link building. That's going out and basically chasing places to put your link to your website to from elsewhere. And it takes a while. Oh my goodness, it does take a while. I've got hundreds of links from other sites through to my sites, and that has taken me many years. I'm not talking about like 3 years. I'm talking about like 10 years to get those hundreds of links. Some of them from business sites, some of them from membership sites, and some of them even from government sites, which really helps with the authority of my domain to lift it up higher. But even with all that work, my domain authority is only at 19 out of 100. And I've been working on this for 10 years. So you can imagine just how hard it is to get into that domain authority, which is a measure that some of those SEO companies use to measure how credible your business name is or your particular page on a website is for answering questions. Also, yes, that can include directories, getting things on the directories. But the problem is, though, not all links are equal. Not all links are positive and not all links are helpful. In fact, many directories are not helpful because firstly, they have a thing called do not follow. There's a little bit of code in there that says, oh, look, even though this person's linked on there, hey, Google, don't go and follow that link. I don't want you indexing that link because it makes us look spammy. And you don't know that, though. You have no idea that that's going on. It's like, for instance, if you put your link in a Facebook post, that doesn't have any impact towards your position on Google, simply because Facebook and LinkedIn and all the social media channels also have that do not follow. And these are all things you have to consider. I've just racked off like maybe 6 different options in there, and some of the things you have to think about when you go into them. Who has the time? Honestly, like I said, I spent 10 years doing it and I got like a lot of results out of that. But at the end of the day, I don't have time to keep doing this again and again and again. So I've taken a different approach altogether. I'm working on personal brand. I'm working on not having to worry about being found for what I do by random people who are shopping around. I just want people going to Google looking for me by name for what I do and by my name. That's a really great shortcut to get if you can get it. But that again, takes time and takes effort. So in the meantime, if we're looking just at the SEO side of it, and you're probably thinking by now, is there any good news in this at all? Yeah, there is actually some good news coming. Trust me, it is around the corner. The money side of it is then when you pay for ads for traffic. Now, it's one of those weird things where you want to appear higher on Google, you can do all that hard work, or you can actually skip the queue a bit and pay for people to go to your website. That's by creating Google ads. When you create Google ads, it creates extra traffic to your website. When you get extra traffic to your website, that is a major factor in boosting up your position on Google, not because you're paying Google, but because more traffic means that your site's obviously more interesting, particularly if that traffic gets to your site and they find what they were looking for and they're really happy with that result. That's a good result. That makes your site more organically interesting to people who are looking for what they're looking for on Google, and it makes a lot more sense. Paid memberships is where you pay for memberships, say to your Chamber of Commerce or to your local tourism association or to the Energy Club or to some organization like the Australian Computer Society that will actually link you in their directory. So I'm, for instance, linked in the directory for the ICT industry of the Northern Territory. So they're one of the fairly decent domain authority places where, like, it's a place of credibility. It's a list of a very limited amount of members of that particular organization. I appear on there, and it's one of the higher places that I appear for search results. The other one is Tourism Top End. I'm a member of Tourism Top End and of Tourism Central Australia. So I appear on their directories. They have follow links. Membership organizations usually do not have that do not follow link. They have follow links, which is great because it means that those links you've got actually will count towards your position on Google. So that's good. Paid memberships might actually be a way of helping to get there. paying for tools like SEMrush or SpyFu or Ahrefs or Moz, or there's tons of different tools you can pay for that allow you to do a little bit more. Now, I pay for two. I pay for one called Ali AI, which is an AI tool which helps, not only tells me where I'm at and where I may need to improve, but it actually gives me suggestions of what exactly I should do to do that. Now, this is a very expensive system. I use it across my client base. So it's sort of, amortized, it's paid off over those. But again, more money just being handed out. You can pay for consultants, pay for people who are SEO experts to come and play with your stuff. But you want to know a dirty secret about SEO experts? They don't know how Google works. I don't know how Google works. Nobody knows how Google works. All we can do is take our best bet and watch its behavior and see what it may do. Google does give us some hints every now and then to give us some kind of idea about how the search engine works, but it's a dirty secret in our whole industry. None of us know how it works, but we just have our best possible guess, a best educated guess on it. So when you're paying for someone to do your SEO for you, they're doing a lot of experiments. They don't really know what they're doing. They just know what they think might be going on, and they make adjustments along the way. Now, a lot of those, what I call the old phone book and newspaper companies that now sell SEO services along with web design and Google ads and Facebook ads, they kind of do this one thing at the beginning of it, and then they do nothing ever again. They work based upon what's called your Google business profile, by optimizing that, by making changes on that. But they don't actually do anything to your website because they wouldn't know how to do it. That's not what they're geared to do. So that's another lot of money going out. Then there's content writers. This gets so dark, doesn't it? Content writers, then you're paying for them to write optimized content for your website, usually. So writing enough content that it's actually hopefully going to attract searches. The problem is that there are 3 billion blogs in the world. 3 billion. That's a lot of blogs. There's 300 million updates happening every day to blogs. So when you've got that much content being written across the world, in reality, how much help is your 1 or 2 posts every now and then going to be? And even if you've got a content writer in, you're a small business. You're not going to really have the money to be throwing about to a content writer to write new stuff every day to keep on top. It's really overwhelming. So I agree with you. When you're a sole trader, and it's a completely different level where you're looking at these things and going, who has the money to be doing this? And then there's the web designers as well. They're going to want their cut. They're going to want to come in and help you to make those things optimized. So I guess that's what we're trying to look at is, is there any hope at all? And why should we bother then? Because it all sounds like it's a bit of a lost cause. Well, it's not completely lost cause. There are some things that if you decided to start working on SEO stuff today, there's a good chance your competitor won't be. They may have done some work a little while ago. It depends on what industry you're in, the amount of money that's coming through. For instance, I work with a couple of SEO clients, and my job is to help them get higher on Google results. And over the period of 6 months now, I've helped both of them to get higher. Now, they're not at number one, and I never promised number one. I said, you will get higher. And over time, over 12 months, you may get in the top 5. And that's the best I can ever really sort of indicate, because there are no guarantees. But the good thing is that most of your competitors, because they too are small businesses, they won't do this stuff. So if you do it, they won't, you're already kind of a step ahead. Starting now is better than not starting at all. The sooner you start on this stuff, because it's like a cumulative thing. So you do a little bit today, you do a little bit next week, a little bit the week after. That work sort of piles upon itself until it hits a bit of a critical mass and something happens, a door opens. It's like playing a game on the computer where you're climbing the steps, and you're climbing the steps, and you're climbing the steps, and all of a sudden you get to this magic portal that suddenly appears in front of you. That's kind of a little bit like how Google works. You climb the steps, you do the work, and then suddenly this magic door opens and it lets you move up to the next level. And that's pretty much what it does, but that does take time. I will tell you though, that the basic things that you get right on your website, they actually do have impact. The way that they will show us. So for instance, if I had no work done on my website at all, and it barely had my name on there, it didn't have anything to do in the search text or in the description of the site about what I do, it just had my name on there. And I suddenly one day changed that text that's the title of my site from just Dante St. James to Dante St. James, speaker, trainer, digital coach. I've now opened up a possibility to Google to say, oh, that's what you do. Okay, so now we know we need to be considering listing you for those things. So for instance, if you look up look up for the term Facebook coach or digital training, digital marketing coach or something like that, I come up fairly high in the results for that, particularly for Facebook. Because I am an official Facebook trainer, so I do come up fairly high in that one. But that's one of those things where I've still had to work on that. None of my other Facebook trainers appear in that list. It's just me because I took the time to make sure I do the basics to show up for that. And the basics in this case was creating a page on my website called social media training or Facebook training expert or something like that, that then allows Google to say, oh, this is what this guy does. Great. Okay, that's linked also to what he says he does on his main page. And he's actually got quite a few things around the internet that all point back to the fact that he does do this. He's got authority in this, so we'll lift him up in the search results. So those basics of getting it right just on your pages, your titles, and sometimes it's referred to as your meta title or your meta description, but it's basically just, on that page, the little override of text you're going to put there, rather than just picking up the title that's on the page or the paragraph of text that's on the page, you get to overwrite it a bit. And then Google will choose whether or not it'll use that text. And about 20% of times it doesn't. They'll say, no, your text is too spammy. We're going to use something else. We're going to pick up whatever's on your page as what your page is about. And ultimately, developing good habits with all this, again, has that cumulative effect. So it's like, for instance, where you practice being a little bit better at public speaking every day and you magically get better at public speaking, or you practice a little bit at knitting every day and you get a little bit more confident with the one purl one, knit three, purl two process of knitting. I don't know what I'm talking about there, by the way, so I probably got it completely wrong. But the whole idea is just a little bit of momentum starts a snowball. It picks up momentum and gets faster and faster and faster over a period of time. Now, that time, we're not talking about days, we're talking about months and years it can take to get that kind of momentum. The guys that are ahead of you on Google didn't do that by accident. They did it very, very deliberate pattern of behavior that indicated that they wanted to be found higher on those search results. When I wanted to be found in Darwin for Darwin Web Design, I was up against a business actually called Darwin Web Design. And she picked up all the work because she had that #1 search result for that. She got so much work for it. I appeared out #5 until I stopped doing web design. Of course, now, because of that, I've dropped out of the top 20 for that, which is great. I don't do that work anymore, so I don't really need to appear there. But you can see there's lots of different things. Like Eva was around for like 15 years in Darwin before she moved away. Now she's not the #1 search result for that, even though she, initially was. She changed the name to Simple Pages, I think her name is, of her business, and she still appears on the top for Darwin Web Design because that's previously what her business was called. So she had momentum. So what you show is you get that momentum, and even if you change the name of your business, that momentum can keep carrying on for quite a while until the momentum starts going with your new business name or with your new direction of your business. And there's a whole different set of circumstances than what you originally got into it for. So, big question. What can you, the small business owners of Australia, the people who don't have, a $5 million SEO budget per year, who don't have all the time in the world to do this because you've got kids and animals and houses and responsibilities and soccer training and shopping and things you need to do as part of your life's responsibilities, what can you realistically expect out of SEO? Let's take a look. You can realistically and easily get a pin on Google Maps, particularly if you are working in a situation where you have a shop front or you work from home and you're willing to share the address of that place. That is the #1 thing that's going to get you a pin on Google Maps. Now, I know that there's a ton of you in here who do work from home and do not want people knowing where your business is and coming and knocking your door and saying, hello, can I buy your makeup, please? Or can I please have a psychology session with you and knowing where you live? kind of feels a bit icky. It gives me the ick. I know that when I was working from home, it's the same thing. But it is a natural advantage. Now, sometimes though, you've got the opportunity to place yourself in a place where you don't actually exist. Now, for instance, my old address in Darwin City has 32 different businesses listed at that address. My new address in Berrima has 12 different businesses listed at that address because I help the people who are around me and people who I know. I help them to set up their Google My Business profiles when they don't want people going to their address. So if I put it at their address and it's at my address and it's somewhere within the vicinity of where they are, so if they're no more than about 10 minutes drive from me, that becomes a bit of an advantage because when someone searches for that particular kind of business and they may be within that 10-minute radius, then there's a very good chance that my address is going to come up with that company or with that person's name or whatever they call their business as an option for them on the map. That pin on the Google map is really important. It's not just a place to go, oh, you know what, I don't want people knowing where I am, so I'm just not going to have I'm not going to have any kind of address in there. You want to try and avoid not having address at all, simply because if you don't have an address, Google can't recommend you as a close business to anybody. If your address is, I serve the whole of Australia, I serve 15 different countries around the world, then you are general to a lot of people, but specific to none. So one thing you can do is work with someone who's got an address who they don't mind. So it could be a business address where they can receive the postcards. They could be, one of my business addresses. If you happen to be in the Northern Territory, particularly in the top end in Darwin, I could probably do that for you. But realistically, you really kind of need to have some sort of physical address for Google to be able to place you. And it'd be really and then Alpha just said that. Alpha just made a decision recently to disclose the personal information, disclose the personal address, and it made a massive difference in the listing on Google. Absolutely, because Google rewards local businesses and local addresses that serve people locally. It's a very specific thing that Google, particularly in the business profile, likes to do. So I'm not going to go on and show you how to use Google Business because we've had so many dozens of webinars all about how to use Google Business. In fact, Bob Jones, one of our guys, he's got the best name, Bob Jones. Wouldn't you just love to have a name like Bob Jones? He's so cool. He's not even Australian, so he's not originally from Australia. He is doing a Google Business Profile webinar in the next couple of weeks. So we've got plenty of opportunities if you look at how to do those, how to optimize them. The most important thing I'd say to you is that these days you want to try and get a physical address on there, even if it's not your address, but it's an address where you can verify, you can get that postcard, then that's what you want to do. What you can realistically expect on Google, if you do even the minimum amount of work on your website or your Google Business Profile, is to be found by your name, or your business name really is what you're looking for. So for your business name is Tip Top Phone Repairs, and if someone literally types into the browser Tip Top Phone Repairs, then you should be able to be found by that, right? Yeah, exactly. But just remember though, that a brand name is a bit of a fine line there, because if you call yourself Queensland Phone Repairs and you want to be found for Queensland phone repairs, just because your business is called that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be at the top of the pile on Google. Google's kind of really made a point of clamping down on that kind of, they call it predatory naming, but I just call it, trying to cheat the system. So if you're calling yourself something like, mechanic near me, is like putting that in Google and saying, oh, find me a mechanic near me, and you find a business literally called Mechanic Near Me, they're trying to cheat the system. And that doesn't work as well as it used to. It used to be really, really effective. Heck, I used to do it myself. I was looking for people who were looking for websites in Darwin. So I built a business called Darwin Websites. It makes sense, doesn't it? Or I was looking for, Gold Coast Web Design, and I wanted to create a business called Gold Coast Web Design because I thought, well, that's a way, even though I'm not on the Gold Coast, and I might be able to get business from the Gold Coast. It's a very old technique to try and get something which you don't necessarily have. Oh yeah, Office got, people called Brisbane Naturopath or Naturopath Brisbane, or North Brisbane Naturopath. They're trying to position themselves in a place not because they're necessarily not creative in their naming, but because they've just found a way they think might actually be able to get them ahead, might actually be able to get them to a point where they'll get ahead of their rivals who have different names. But what now they've gone is like, well, if you want to be found in a place, you've got to have a pin on the Google map in a place. You can't just be called that. To be listed on Google, like, is another realistic expectation you can have. I didn't say listed at the top of Google. I just said be listed on Google. In some cases, my pages are at number 50, number 100. My client is some sort of searches we've got where we cannot get him past, number 100 for that search result, but we've got him up into the top 20 for others. So that's a realistic expectation for a small business who is new to business, who hasn't been around for 10 years, constantly playing it, making themselves more known and more easily found on Google, is that you will not be at the top of the rankings. Unless there's an absolute miracle and for some reason the Google gods are smiling upon you and put you towards the top. I've had that happen before. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what I did to make it happen. I couldn't even reverse engineer it because it was something which one of my business names just got to the top for what it wanted to be. But it's very, very rare. It's like 1 in 50 million different results will ever have that kind of thing. And very quickly, it's usually because of a bug and it'll get fixed in the next release of Google. So it's all a bit grim, really. Is there any good news whatsoever? Well, the good news is that there are some things you can do that will work over time. Like I said, it's creating content that's going to match what people are looking for, fiddling around with things like the headings and the words on your website that match what people are looking for. That will work over time, especially the more you do it. A particular technique I'm using for this one guy I'm doing is that he wants to get found for what he does in more places around Australia. So he said, well, look, what we might need to do is try and place him in different suburbs and local council areas around Australia where he's not. He's based on the northern Gold Coast. We now have got him getting found for his particular kind of business in towns just outside of Perth in WA, specific postcode areas of Perth. We're getting him found in a particular part of Sydney and in Wollongong as well, even though he is nowhere near those things, because we've created enough content and enough local knowledge in that content to show that he can be found in those areas. There are ways around that. Now, what all it takes really to knock us back off is for someone who's really in that area to get better at making themselves known as the Wollongong, X person who does this stuff. It's a hard thing to gain. It's a very easy thing to lose. So you always need to be on top of it. You can't just stop and go, well, now I've got there and I'm on the top few results for that search term in that particular town that I can stop. It doesn't quite work like that. And then there's those of you who have this horror run of selling e-commerce products, like having e-commerce websites and all that. Now that can be really hard because you're selling to people anywhere. There's no specific geographical location you're selling to. It might be Australia, but that's not very specific, is it? And we might have a small population in Australia, but we still are very widely set apart. So it does make that a little hard to do. So that's where we look at the difference between what is called long tail and short tail key phrases or keywords. There's the things that are very obvious to search for, baby clothing, for instance, looking for baby clothes. Yep, you think you find that, oh, I'm not even showing in the first 1,000 results of that because there's like 20,000 stores around the world selling this. So how do I get up the top? Well, you may not get up the top, but you may get up the top for a specific kind of thing. You may not get 50,000 people landing on your website every day for that particular thing. Let's just say it's a beige bib made from organic cotton, Australian grown. There's not many people who are going to search for that very specific thing. Baby's bib, organic cotton, Australian grown is a very long tail keyword. It's not something that a lot of people are going to search for, but you could be the one person who gets that result when it is searched for. And those kind of highly specific search terms are exactly what you want to get because someone's looking so specifically for that thing, then they're going to find you. because you have listed that very specific thing. Those people are probably going to buy from you because they are, well, they've got such a high intent to buy. They're not just searching for, they're not searching for shits and giggles. They're not just searching for, for doing a little bit of shopping around. They know what they're looking for. They haven't been able to find it under any less specific terms. So they get this super specific term and look for it, and boom, they find you because you happen to optimize for that super specific term. Problem is, there's not going to be a lot of people searching for that specific term. So you've got to hope that there are enough, it's that balancing game, that there's enough people who are going to search for that longer tail keyword rather than just baby clothing. And so balance that out. Find the balance of where there's enough people who are coming through to make it worth your while to optimize your page for that specific kind of term. And hopefully there's enough people who are going to actually buy once they're getting there. But the good thing is the people who generally do get there are way, way more likely to buy. So the realistic minimum that you should be able to do yourself when it comes to SEO is really all around these items. Setting some realistic goals. So we're not going to set ourselves to be the #1 in the world for baby clothes. We're not going to go the #1 in the world for life coaching, because you're not going to reach there. And all the positive thoughts in the world and reading the secret and reading affirmations on your fridge every morning is not going to make that happen, because all of you are doing that at the same time. So all that cosmic clash is going on, and someone needs to win, and it's going to be the algorithm that's going to decide what's going to win. You can do your keyword research, and I'm going to show you a bit about how that works. You can get a Google business profile, which we've been talking about. Get that profile and make it as optimized as you can. I'll look very briefly at that one. And create optimized content. It's got a question: do you put those long tail keywords in the website settings or in the content? Usually in the it's not so much in the settings. It'll be sort of the page title, or it'll be the heading of the page, or the product that you're trying to sell, something like that. So not necessarily in the settings in there. And then also we've got, just clearing those questions. That creative optimized content. Now I'm going to give it a real brush over that. So I'm not expecting us to be able to learn in the next 20 minutes how to write the best blog ever in existence that's going to attract 15,000 search queries a month. Even though I had a bit of success in that one, and I'll show you that particular case. So let's start on what these look like. Your specific goals are going to be all around being realistic, being specific, and having a goal and stretching that goal out, but being real about it. You're not saying I'm going to be #1 in 58 countries. You're saying, you know what, I'm going to aim to be in the top 20 of my category in the town I'm in within the next 3 months. So I'm going to set myself a bunch of things I'm going to do to try and get into the top 20 in my town for the category I work in 3 months. And I think that's kind of cool. The top 10 maybe in 6 months. So in 12 months, you can maybe aim for the top 5. Set yourself these incremental tasks, not something which is going to be, that's going to put you in a position where you are going to achieve completely and utterly unrealistic things. You're going to look at trying to get things that are a lot more realistic, a lot more likely to happen, and you stage them. Baby steps, take that little baby steps first, and then you move up the channel from there. So those realistic goals then need to be offset by a little bit of research, a little bit of competitor spying, a little bit of keyword research, and you're going to feel really clever when you're doing this, because it's a little bit sneaky. I think it's a little bit sneaky. You're going in there and looking at what your competitors are doing. There's these little plugins you can put into your browser that let you actually see, what they've been doing and how they're sitting, and you can see what their weaknesses are. So you can go, ooh, there's the gap. And that's what you want to look at, is how competitive is it to look for the thing you're looking for? How entrenched the incumbents are. So that's the people who are leading the pack, how entrenched they are in there. So you can find where the gaps are. When you find where the gaps are, you go, ooh, that's the thing I can do to try and make an impact on my search results, and maybe catch up with them, or at least get into the same kind of ballpark as them. I may not beat them, but I might get into the same ballpark as them. So let's have a look. We're looking for plumbers in Mackay. So it's just a random place I chose, not because I know anything about Mackay. I haven't been there for a very long time. I know some people in Mackay. I know some people who are from Mackay. but I don't know plumbers in Mackay. I'm not in Mackay. So my search doesn't bring up any ads. If I was in Mackay, I'd probably get a swath of ads before I even saw this map. 4 ads in a row probably before I see these top 3. The top 3 being O'Brien Plumbing, Tropical Coast Plumbing, and Tri Plumbing Services Mackay. Now, they are the closest ones that sit to the actual township of Mackay. They're the ones that are really like totally close on in to where Mackay's CBD is. So they're the 3 closest. I don't know if Tri Plumbing is necessarily the closest, but they're coming up as the ones that are going to appear higher. They've got reviews, they've got recommendations, they've got ratings in there, 4.9, 5. The fact that Tropical Coast Plumbing has a 221 reviews and they're all 5-star really seems a little bit, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me. I don't think you get 221. You're saying that in 221 jobs, you never made one mistake? I don't know about that. But then you got O'Brien Plumbing Mackay, which is 50 plus years in business, 4.9, 69 reviews, another 35 reviews. These are highly regarded ones. So you can tell that if you're a plumber in Mackay, you're going to be up against it because these guys are, they've been doing this for a long time, especially Tropical Coast, 221 5-star reviews. Geez, that's a bit of gold star action there. So as I look through then the organic search results for this, I notice that most of them are these things, these local search, yellow pages, HR, home improvement pages, 3 best rated, true local, one flare, all these sort of aggregator sites. I basically ignore those, and most people do as well. But most people would ignore those and move on to the actual first one, O'Brien, that came up. Tropical Coast was down a bit lower, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, down at number 10. You got Coal Plumbing, who are in at number 4, but number 2 out of the results. We've got CJM Plumbing Mackay, who's in there as well. And what you'll notice in these results, I'm seeing this extra information right here. There's little bits of extra traffic information. I'm seeing then this data down the bottom. And this is because of a thing that I've got installed on my browser, which is called Keywords Everywhere. And it's a free plugin that you can install in there into I think, Chrome definitely does it. I'm not sure that Safari does, but I definitely know that you can in Edge and in, what's it called, Firefox. You can install this plugin, Keywords Everywhere. And what it does, it places an overlay over your Google search results. So you go searching for something, you get this extra info. So let's just say that I was looking for Plumbers Mackay. It will tell me over on the right hand side, if I'm on a desktop, it'll be up the top if you're on a mobile. You'll see that it's giving me a SEO difficulty rating of 47 out of 100. So what it's saying there is that it's considered that it's about 47% difficult to rate for that keyword for Plumbers Mackay. If I had to put in plumber Mackay, that would be about 53, 54%. Now, obviously, the higher that number, the more difficult it is to rank for that keyword. Is it a brand query? I'd put in Plumbers Mackay. Well, no, it's not. There's not a brand called Plumbers Mackay. Well, not at least that it could find. Then it breaks it down into this off-page difficulty and an on-page difficulty. So it's saying you'll find it easier to rank for this query by seeking to have your link on pages that are off your own website. They're in other places. So directories, other people's websites, recommendations on recommendation engines, Google results, not Google results, Facebook recommendations, Google reviews, all these things that don't sit on your own website. That's what it's looking at. It's saying you've got a 32% chance of ranking based upon doing those off-page things. And then over here with the on-page difficulty, excuse me, it's telling us that it's going to be a 74% difficulty to rank based on the things you do on your website. So the things that you're most likely to be able to do are the things on your own website. It's telling you, you're going to be really pushing it uphill with that one because that's a really hard way to rank for this particular search term. So this is like a little cheat sheet It's telling it straight up and saying, look, it's not that hard. It's like about, 50-50 sort of thing to rank for. You're not going up against the brand, so that doesn't make it even more difficult. So if your search term isn't also the name of a brand, well, you're not going to hit that difficulty. So that's good. But your best chance of ranking high is going to be from putting things off page that link to you. So making sure that newspapers are linked to you, some of the government contracts notices are linked to you. Anything you can possibly get to link to your website is linking to your website, particularly relevant things, not just directories are actually really bad for this. They will add to the number of things that you've got linked, but they won't add to the quality of the things that will be linked to you. Then it's also going to tell me over here, people who search for Plumbers Mackay may also search for these much more longer and much more difficult search terms. So Plumbers Mackay was one of the longer ones, Plumbers North Mackay, Plumbers Jobs Mackay. The Idaho thing is a bit out of ordinary because we're not looking at Mackay in Idaho, so we wipe those out. Gas Plumber Mackay, maybe Emergency Plumber Mackay. These ones were things you may want to attempt to try and aim for. So you would have either some key phrases like that on your home page to help you get for those, or create a whole new page that's just about 24-hour Plumber Mackay or after hours Plumber Mackay, because you're more likely to get found for those. There's less people searching for them, but there's less pages out there on the internet that are actually optimized for them as well. So commercial Plumbers Mackay, roofing Plumbers Mackay, if you go down that path. So you will have the same kind of thing going about your industry and the things you're selling as well. So that's keywords everywhere. Now let's look at closely at what this information is it's giving us. Let's go back here. So it's telling me here that O'Brien Plumbing Mackay is getting between 80 to 65,300. Yes, 65 between anywhere sort of between in a month 80,000 to around 65,300 searches per month. Now that's because look at the address. It's part of a much bigger website. It's O'Brien, which is O'Brien Glass, O'Brien Plumbing, O'Brien Electrical. So they're like gyms, basically. They're everywhere and they do all sorts of things. Because when you look down here for coal plumbing, they're really only getting between 20 searches and 20 landings every month. So they're not doing that great at all. In Australia, they're ranking for 5 keywords. These guys are ranking for 8 out of their 39 keywords that they want to rank for. These guys are ranking for all 5. So they're doing pretty well for little guys. They've actually put something into their website that's helping them to show better. Look at this, emergency plumber in Mackay. They haven't put their brand first, they put what they do first. They've really put some work into this. While they're only getting a little bit of traffic every month compared to O'Brien is, they're actually really well optimized for Mackay, where O'Brien isn't optimized as much. They're just getting there because they get so much damn traffic. Then you'll see down here the MOSDA, that's domain authority. And what that means is that for the authority as a source of plumbing in Mackay, they have 35 out of 100 as opposed to these guys, which are only 10 out of 100. But it's also telling us that they've gone down by 3% recently, down by 9% recently. Something's happened that's made them less authoritative over this search term. Then we look at how many referring domains point to, so how many other websites are pointing to O'Brien Plumbing. Not O'Brien Plumbing Mackay, just O'Brien Plumbing, 2006. Different websites are aiming at it. So they're a big company. They're linked from so many different things. There's 42,000 links around the internet, all pointing to them. And they got a low spam score. That's pretty good. That's really good. Like these guys, a low spam score at 2% as well. But look at these guys. Only 19 different websites are linking to them, but they've got 631 individual websites linking to them. We can go further down to our other guys. And you can see that here, 1 out of 100. Oh, I can see a bit of a gap starting to appear. Your domain authority, your website charisma, you'd have to go through a thing called Moz. So if you just look for moz.com, moz.com, sorry, I'll for you ask you this, the information from the same plugin. Yes, this is from Keywords Everywhere. This is the same information. So what you would do is you'd search for yourself in there, charisma, and you'd be able to search for yourself on Google. And we'll go live in a minute. I'll show you this in action. So you'll actually be able to see what this looks like when you go searching for it with this plugin installed. And same with Tropical Coast Plumbing. They've got 47 websites with 77. But look at these guys, come up in number 3, and they've got no authority. They've got no one referring to them, no links to them at all. How in the heck are they appearing so high up? It's because they've actually made themselves so optimized in all the words on their website that CGM plumbing, drainage, Mackay, residential, commercial, plumbing, maintenance, services, emergency, repairs. They've got all the keywords that you magically want to be found for a plumbing company in Mackay. So they've ultra done that on page. You know, I've said the on page difficulty. Well, they've gone for the on page difficulty and they've won it. Now they've probably been also around for a very long time. They're not going to be like, you know, fly by nighters. So what we look for is the gaps in amongst all that. What we notice is the number 3 result had no backlinks. Remember, we look at it here, we said they had no backlinks. So there's a chance for us with at least a few backlinks to get us to a point where we're competing better against them. We're also noticing that their domain authority is low. So we go, okay, the domain authority is 1 out of 100. These guys, even though they're appearing really high, have some real weak spots that we can aim for. And then finally, we look at it and go, all their domain authorities are either stagnant or dropping. So I'll go back to those domain authorities. The first one, down 3%, down 9%. This one up here is not moving at all. This one's down 22%. These guys have gone way down. Remember how I told you that I thought something was really dodgy about them because they had those, 200 and something 5-star reviews? Well, I reckon Google started to actually notice that and starting to pull them down. I wouldn't be surprised if they were the #1 search result for many, many years. And if recently with Google's caught them out cheating and it's kind of punished them a little bit and taken them down there a little bit more. Even though their spam score is the highest of the bunch at 4%, it's not quite enough to make it a problem. But what we might find is that with that big drop, they've dropped down significantly. So they're definitely in trouble. So these two here are ones that we can aim for. If we can get ourselves on a few more websites linking to us, which isn't easy, but we can do it. If we can be super optimized in what people are looking for in these descriptions of the website, we may have a chance of actually catching up on them in the next 3 to 6 months. So there is a chance there. There is some good news in there, but it's going to take a little bit of detective work. You're going to get a little bit Sherlock Holmes here. You're going to go searching for things that are not quite sure whether they're related to each other and use these little tools that will help you. Now, I can probably say those competitors probably aren't using them. So what I'm going to do is take a look at Google Business Profile. And we're going to go live in this. So I'm going to go into my Google Business Profile, searching for my name on Google. So it shows me, it's got my profile over here and a pretty photo that I just added on today that's just showing up now. All my info, how to contact me, how to get in touch with me, a little bit about me. I also post to Google. So I've got like posts go up every single day that are all about, the things that I post on social media. I also post on here. It helps Google learn more about me and naturally then also helps Google to know how to rank me better for what I do. So if anyone's looking for me, they're going to find me. Now you notice over here, I'll zoom it in, the SEO difficulty, it will be very difficult for someone else to be found for what I am because I'm a brand. So it's very hard for someone to get above me for who I am because I've set myself up very well. The off-page difficulty is actually really high as well. So it doesn't even matter if they go and try. That's probably the easiest way for someone to top me over for my own name is to go for more links elsewhere. But to try and out-optimize me on my own website, 91 out of 100, they're not going to do that very easily at all. That's the kind of result you really want to find when you're doing that. Now I can look down and see what the long tail keywords down here a bit more. Pretty much, they're really not that much. So James Dant promo code, none of these, James St. James net worth, that's not me. James Dant, that's not me either. None of these are me. Directions to St. James, none of these keywords are me. Because I'm searching for my brand myself, and people when they're searching for me look for me, like for instance, Dante St. James Facebook, Clickstarter, which is one of my business names. They're all related to me. And that's showing you the importance of really developing your brand so that people are searching for you, not for what you do. Because if they're searching you directly, they're going to find you because I've got blue sky here. No one's going to find someone else called Dante St. James, but I find tons of people who do the things that I do. Now, my website is the first authoritative link there. LinkedIn, my Facebook, my Instagram, another page on my website, which is all about my business. So my website appears at #1 and at #5. Then my YouTube channel pops in. So I've got a YouTube channel. All my events that I've ever booked are all in there. My Twitter is now in there with that creepy photo of me from many, many years ago that I need to get rid of. Consult Clarity interview that I was given, events that I put on, photos about me. So everything in here, business station profile, my SoundCloud profile, everything in there that's to do with me is showing. My podcast place where Audio Boom, where all my podcasts are. Oh, look, and then my podcast pops in there as well. So that's someone who super optimizes themselves to appear on there, to be found for who they are. But if you were to search for something like Darwin digital marketing expert, I don't know if I will come up with that. Maybe I might, but it's not really what I've kind of, not really. Beata is one of my clients. We helped get her higher up than me. So I'm not really showing up as that because I haven't. My business does. It comes up. Digital, like my Kickstarter address is on there. But really, I'm not showing in there because I haven't really tried to become an expert in my own hometown very much. But if I was to search for Facebook trainer Australia, I can hopefully show up at Facebook. There we go, Facebook. So it looks at the community trainer network, which I'm actually in that page. Someone else here is on that, and then me. That's me down here. So I've made sure I'm actually in there. Facebook personal trainer, not really what I'm trying to look for. I'm just looking for a Facebook trainer in Australia. If I was looking to Facebook trainer Darwin, I might have a bit of chance because I am, this is like Facebook trainers as in, personal trainers in Darwin. So probably not going to turn out that well. But you'll find that then those are things that I have gone and tried to make myself more searchable for. The business profile will show you back here, which is back in the search for me. It means I search myself and it knows, oh yeah, you're that. And 43 people have viewed you this month through your business profile. So here's some things you might want to do for that. Then you do things like ads and, go and change your profile about a bit. Get some reviews, add some new things, create offers, add in more of these posts. You can do lots of things within there, but the whole idea is to understand that Google business profile is only of use when people search for you personally, not when they're searching for what you do, just when they're searching for your business name. Same thing if I was searching for my business name, Kickstarter. First thing will come up is me. So that's my business there. So it shows I've got a couple of reviews, not many. I used to have more, so they seem to be ticked off. Maybe they were dodgy too, who knows? A bit about my business, the search performance I'm getting on that. So I haven't been working on this site for quite a while, but then shows lots of different results, the Facebook result, the LinkedIn result for it, Crunchbase, which is like a profile that a website's done on my particular business, my Apple podcast, my Audio Boom podcast, my podcast itself. Lots of things will show up on there because I search for my business particularly. But if I was looking for Darwin web designer, which is what I would have showed up for before, then I've got all these guys coming up, not me. Sam's, Captivate, Lucrative. I'm not really looking for that. I haven't actually made myself optimized for that. A lot of these other guys have. I'm a long way down there. There you go. Finally, I come up. Well, I haven't really optimized for that because I'm not really looking to build websites. But I would say to a Darwin digital coach, maybe I might come up in there. Chantel, she's the coach for, there I am down here. So I am actually somehow, made sure that I'm optimized for those searches. So that's a lot about the stuff you can do. Now, to get there with a little bit more effort, and I know we're just about run out of time, so I'll just get on this really quickly. Give you an idea of the things you do with a little bit more effort. We're talking about things like writing articles and blogs, videos, podcasts, web pages. You saw how all that showed up in the searches for me. I've got that. You search for me and you find my articles, you find my videos, you find my podcast, you find my website as well. When you're creating content to be found, you want to do it so that you can show a bit of expertise. That's really good for you. Great to be found. Developing trust so people will look for you, not for what you do. To get indexed, obviously, on Google, and create links for people to link through you, because your LinkedIn profile will connect to your website and will be shown up as an authoritative link, very highly authoritative. Your Facebook profile or your page, your Instagram profile, if it links through, then it's associated with your website, which gives you that extra bit of juice that makes you go that little bit higher. So how do you create optimized content for articles and blogs? You write quality, long format content that contains the things you want to be found for. I've been doing a whole lot of work with a couple of ladies in the room today who we've been working on that. We've been working to try to build that quality content and where to get it from. Writing blogs is another topic for another time. Videos, same thing, creating long format YouTube videos, podcasts, web pages. There's all ways that you can make these things, but this is a bit of a stretch. Like, I'm not expecting you to be able to do all of this straight away, especially things like podcasts and videos. They're hard. What you may want to do is make it clear on your web pages to start with that your products and services are related to what you want to be found for. So if you want to be found for people who are looking to empower themselves through a positive mindset, then put those words on the web page. Think about the words that you would search for if you're looking for you. And that's what you write on your web pages as headings, as the beginnings of paragraphs. You don't just chuck it full of it. You're not writing the same thing over and over on the page. We are making it clear that you want to be found for that sort of thing. So if I look at, for instance, these are things that I actually went for quite some time ago. So there's the search of how to target Facebook groups with ads. Let's go to Google and let's see what that happens. How to target Facebook groups with ads. So down here, the default answer is, the default answer, the featured answer on Google is mine. It goes to my website. So you click start, that's my website. So I've won that one. So that's something I actually went for specifically. I targeted that to be found for it and created an optimized piece of content back in February 2020 of how to be found for that particular thing. So was I smart? Yeah, it was. It was a bit of a test to see if I could do it, and I did it. The same thing was how to advertise to Facebook groups, because I was getting asked that a lot. So I'll put that in, how to advertise to Facebook groups. And Neil Patel has come up ahead of me down here. So we're kind of fighting out for that number one position. Honestly, if I'm running second to Neil Patel, I'm completely happy with that. The guy is a bit of a legend. If I look for Facebook groups advertising, which is another term I went for, I'm not the first. It's actually Facebook, but I'm down here somewhere. About down to about number, about number 10. So I'm appearing again underneath Neil Patel. So to come under a guy who is one of the most authoritative names of SEO in the world, that's great. But then I also wanted to create my own Australian marketing podcast. So let's look for that. Australian marketing podcast. There I am, number one. Straight away with podcast series. I'm one of the best Australian marketing podcasts in the list. I come up in various other places. You can go down here. There I am. Still list again. There's my page on my website. So I'm actually coming up quite a lot for that. How about if I dare to be at least cheeky enough to say the best Australian podcast for digital marketing? Well, I come up in this list. So I'm actually in that list. There you go. My podcast comes up. 2 episodes of my podcast come up. Blogs and FeedSpot. I'm actually in that. Click Starter, the Australian Digital Marketing Podcast. So I've managed to do those things. So what it shows is you actually can do that. I'm a sole trader too, just like you, single business owner. So I can do it because I've played around with it for a long time. I do that. Now, what you probably will not do when it comes to SEO is some of the stuff which is the hard, really technical stuff. That is what we call chasing backlinks. You're going to go around asking 1,000 people to connect to your website. So you connect to theirs, they connect to yours. It's really cringy. It's really spammy. And you won't want to do it because it just makes you feel stupid. You probably won't learn about technical SEO because technical SEO means going into your web server and making tweaks to your PHP to make it run faster on queries, making sure that your web hosting package has more RAM in it so your pages load faster, or going from one web host to another web host who's going to load your pages faster. That's something that's beyond most of us. I struggle with that stuff most days, and I do it all the time. And then there's also mobile SEO, where you create a completely separate web page for your mobile people viewing you than what you do for people who are searching for you on the desktop. That's a hard call as well, because that means you are essentially designing 2 complete websites, and your particular web hosting package and your particular website design tools that you're using have to support that, and they probably don't. So don't feel bad if you're not doing those things, because ultimately you're probably not capable of it, and that's nothing to be embarrassed about. As long as you're doing those basic things right, you're going ahead and making sure you do a little bit of research about what people are searching for, making sure your website's optimized for those words. Create some content if you can. But ultimately, if you can't, just get the basics right and at least have that Google business page sorted out as well. So that way you're able to at least get found for who you are, and it will start you on the path to getting found for what you do as well.